screen, right?
I can see. So I can see that we're recording, and I can see that we can see the slides. So I think without any further ado, we'll just get started. Just to repeat myself, thank you very much for joining us on the Friday afternoon, end of a busy week, I'm sure, for everybody. So this is one of our TEAP chatters, and the focus of this particular chatter is the BALI Fellowship Scheme, particularly collecting examples of evidence is the main thing that we're going to talk about. So if you just get the next slide, thank you. So as Stella mentioned, we're going to have a brief introduction to the scheme. I appreciate a lot of you are probably familiar with it, or you may have read a little bit about it. So we won't spend a long time on this, but it's just a brief sort of 10 minutes to introduce you to the fellowship scheme, thinking about the different levels of that, the portfolio requirements, and just where you might get sources of further information. And then we will go into breakout rooms and look at a few tasks that we've got for you, nothing too onerous, but just to start thinking about how you go about collecting your evidence for your TEAP portfolio. So without further ado, I will hand over to Angeliki, who will introduce the scheme. Thank you, Angeliki.
Okay, so as Lindsay mentioned, this is going to be a very brief introduction. You probably are all familiar with the individual accreditation scheme. It's recently been updated and streamlined. Last November was the first time that they accepted submissions using the new criteria. So the main aims of the scheme is to facilitate the professional development of EAP teachers, and it's been designed to align with the BALI values of professionalism, development, collaboration, and inclusivity. What we gain from submitting, our evidence and our apps in order to be accredited, it's like a roadmap for our career development and planning, a guide to planning our own professional development. It provides us with professional recognition and accreditation, and this all leads to increased employability. Actually, there is a rumor that in the future it's going to be an absolute essential for EAP teachers to, be able to be employed. Something you may not know is that all individual members of BALI are eligible to take part in the accreditation scheme, or those who work for BALI accredited institutions. The scheme aims to facilitate the development of all EAP teachers, regardless of their prior experience and whatever the context. Of course, they have to be experienced teachers, but their EAP work can only be a couple of pre-sessional programs. It all involves building a TEAP portfolio, which consists of a reflective account of professional practice, supported by a portfolio of evidence and referee statements. Referee statements can be provided by your line manager or by other colleagues. There are three pathways to accreditation: Associate Fellow, which is the very first one, Fellow, and Senior Fellow. And here are the brief role descriptors for each one. Someone who's got a very basic EAP experience can go for Associate Fellow accreditation, and it's someone who can plan and deliver effective EAP teaching with some support. Fellow will have a higher level of autonomy, and it also involves engaging in professional development and scholarship, taking part in conferences or presenting in conferences or designing materials. A senior fellow is someone who can apply a wide range of professional values and knowledge, designing and leading EAP provision, and in a way training others within and beyond the institution. So that's the highest level of accreditation within the framework. A lot more information can be provided on the BALIP website, but we've also, in teacher education, in EAP SIG, we've done many other events. And if you go to our WordPress, you can see talks, you can watch talks by the ex-TEAP officer, BALIP TEAP officer, talking about the difference between pathways or the requirements for each pathway. And also on the BALIP handbook, on the BALIP webpage, sorry, you can find a lot more on individual accreditation, the benefits, a list of fellows. You can even do a quiz to see which would be the right pathway for you and how you can get started. You can have a look at materials and find the scheme handbook as well as the competency framework with the criteria. Also, you can find a list of people who have been accredited for each pathway, senior fellow, fellow, or associate fellow. The list is quite long. Lots of people decide to go for it. Now, what you need to do is to start collecting the evidence. That's the important thing. So you need to become a collector. You can collect different kinds of evidence and keep them or save them for your portfolio. You can save them in a flash drive, Dropbox, or a Padlet. And you can start collecting now. And, you know, when you feel you have enough evidence, you can start writing up your RAP. Your portfolio will include an introduction, an overview, the reflective account of professional practice, and samples of evidence of your work need to be annotated or using hyperlinks integrated in the report. You can also ask for a mentor, but there's more information on the BALIP TEAP web pages. Some examples of evidence could be lesson plans or feedback from your observed lessons. And each piece of evidence can reflect many different criteria, many competencies, not just one. You can collect examples of student work or feedback you get from students, feedback you give students for their formative or summative work, homework tasks you set, final project work, also material adaptations you've done or things you have supplemented to the content of your course, and how, you know, why did you decide to adapt or supplement them. Also, class feedback that you receive at the end of the course from your students. You can keep a list of induction or CPD conferences you've attended, seminars you've attended, or you've presented at. All these are very, very valuable pieces of evidence. There are many more that you may want to talk about. So how this works is, first you draw up, you write your RAP, supported by the evidence. You submit. Within a couple of months, you receive feedback on your work. And after a while, if it's a pass, you get your award. So that's about it from me. Over to Stella now.